Hey friends, welcome to today's video. Today we are doing a dupes versus high-end challenge. I have done my makeup. The right side of my face is done with all luxury, prestige, high-end beauty products. And on the left side of my face are their drugstore dupe counterparts. So most of these products were brand new. I researched, I found out what people are saying are dupes for high-end products, and I went out and purchased them. So in many cases, I do agree that yes, these products are very, very similar. And I would say that, you know, product A is a dupe for product B. In other cases, I don't know that I would call it a dupe, but I do think that the drugstore find is as good, if not better, than the luxury find. But I'll give you some reasons why I don't quite think that it would be described as a dupe, in my opinion. So, what do you guys think? What side do you like better? I actually kind of like the way that my eye makeup came out on the left side a little bit better than the right. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So the first product pair is actually a primer, and I was so excited to get online and read that people were saying the Revlon Prime Plus Perfecting and Smoothing Primer is a dupe for the Airbrush Vanish primer, which I recently just purchased, and I really, really like it. And I will say this is a great dupe option for this product. I'll have all the products here on the screen with the price point so you guys can see the difference in price. The textures are very similar. They have a little bit of a tackiness feel, both of them do. Kind of grips the makeup. It doesn't feel real slippery or silicone-y. It almost feels like a skincare primer hybrid, but on the skin they both feel the same. They are about the same consistency. I found these two products to be very, very similar, and I would say that the Revlon, oops, wrong side, that the Revlon is a great dupe for the Hourglass. So next up for foundation, I had both of these foundations already, so I was very familiar with them both, and I had never made the connection that the L'Oreal True Match Nude Hyaluronic Tinted Serum would be a dupe for the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Foundation. But when I came across that people were saying this was a dupe, I thought, actually, I probably agree with that. I love both of these foundations. In fact, when I discovered this foundation a few months ago, I did a whole video dedicated on how much I loved it. And I remember describing it to be similar to the Armani Luminous Silk. I don't think I mentioned it in that video, but the description that it came to mind is lightweight, very natural, not quite radiant, but definitely not matte, just a very natural, beautiful, flawless finish with a light to medium coverage. And that is exactly how I would describe the Armani Luminous Silk. I applied these both today, and although the shades I have are very different, I have the shade 4 to 5 medium in the L'Oreal, and then I have the shade 5.9 in the Armani Silk. They're very different shades. This one's lighter than this one. They both look and have the same finish. The texture is very similar to each other. The coverage is about the same. I found these two products to be very, very similar to one another. They also both set about the same. They needed about the same amount of time to set, and when they did set, it was very hard to tell, aside from the color shade, the difference between the two. I've had the products on now for about 5 hours, and they both look identical, you guys. So I would say that the L'Oreal serum is as good as the Armani Luminous Silk Foundation. That is saying a lot because this is such a cult favorite foundation. It has been you know, holy grail, top on the foundation favorites list for many, many years. Now, the next product was not actually anything that I read up as a dupe, but I kind of thought they might be similar to each other. I recently picked up the Maybelline Superstay Activewear Concealer. This is a new product. I picked this up about a week or two ago, and I used it the other day, and I was kind of undecided on how I felt about it, but I recognized it as being a very, very lightweight concealer. It reminded me a lot of the Lancome Tint Idole All Over Concealer, which I really like. The textures are very similar to each other. I will say that the Lancome offers a little bit more coverage than the Maybelline, but if you like the texture of this, you'll like the texture of this as well. You can build this to get a little bit more coverage, making it about the same as this. So I feel like these are very similar. I wouldn't quite classify them as like an exact dupe, but again, if you like the consistency of this, which I think that makes it, this is what really stands out to me in this product. product is how lightweight it feels. This one feels very similar. It's very lightweight, very thin, very natural looking, and they both dry down to like a natural matte finish. So I found these products to be very similar. Once they were on underneath the eyes, like I said, I had to go back and add a little bit of the Maybelline to get the same amount of coverage, but I would say that they, you know, pretty much look identical. It's very difficult to tell any difference between both of the under eyes. So I'm gonna call this a dupe for the Lancome. So next I wanted to find a dupe for the Charlotte Tilbury airbrush powder. I have the compact and I keep this in my purse. This and the La Mer are my two like purse powders to touch up with. It's a very lightweight, silky powder. It has a little bit of pigment, but it's not heavy and it doesn't make the foundation look heavy or cakey if you touch up throughout the day. So I really like how silky and light it is. And I found that people were saying there were two dupes I found. I found the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop powder was suggested as a dupe to this powder, and I also found that the ColourPop Pretty Fresh was another dupe to this. So I wanted to tell you guys my thoughts. Let me open this one up. This is the ColourPop Pretty Fresh powder. Now I do like both of these powders. I feel like the ColourPop is a bit more of a little closer to the consistency of the Charlotte Tilbury airbrushed. It has a very silky texture too, where the NYX has a bit more of a velvety texture. It's beautiful and I love this, but I find that the texture, if I were to close my eyes and really concentrate on what I'm feeling, this has a little bit more of a velvety, thicker texture to me than the Charlotte Tilbury. This is very silky and smooth. So I'm gonna say that the ColourPop is a closer dupe, and that is the one that I used today. So I used both of these. I used this one on my right side and this on my left, and I'm gonna say that this is a very, very close dupe to this one. Now, with that said, I also have been loving and enjoying this. I've been using it for about a week, but again, the texture is just a little different than the Charlotte Tilbury in my opinion. Now, these were dupes that I was testing on my own. You guys know I love my brow lift from Charlotte Tilbury. It is my go-to brow pencil. It has a triangular head shape to it, and it's got a fairly decent amount of pigment. So when you apply it, you get the pigment payoff that you would get from like a pencil or a pomade, but it's a little waxier than your typical thin micro point brow pencil. So I like it because it kind of helps me, even though I do go in with a brow gel after, it does help me get my brow hairs tamed a little bit. And I just like the way that it fills in my brows. It gives a little bit more of a soft powdered look versus a penciled look. I recently picked up the NYX Fill and Fluff brow pencil, and I found it to be very similar to my favorite Charlotte Tilbury. The shape and head are very similar. Now I do have different shades. I don't think that the shades are an exact match, but I think that the actual product is very similar. Very similar in texture, in color payoff. I don't know if you can see those tips. Very similar in color and payoff and consistency and the way that it wears and lasts on my brows. I find this to be a very, very close dupe to this one, and I have them applied to have the Charlotte Tilbury on my right and the NYX on my left. Now, one other key note is that on the NYX, you don't get your typical spoolie that you get on the back of like most brow ones. You know how we see this a lot to comb the brow hairs. Instead, you get this little brush, which I'm not really a fan of. I mean, I suppose you can use this after you've applied the product to really soften and feather and almost like diffuse out the product to make it look softer, but I don't need to do that with this pencil because it doesn't give me harsh lines at all. I find that it's already applied in the effect that I want it. So I don't really love this brush for that reason. I prefer to use a brush that I can actually comb my hairs and get them in place. So for that reason, I like, you know, this spoolie on the Charlotte Tilbury better, but I believe NYX has another version of this that does have that. And I know that that one's a close runner up to this as well. So this NYX Thick It, Stick It Thickening Brow Mascara, what I heard that it was very similar to the Gimme Brow. And I have to say I disagree with that because the wand is so much different. This is much of a larger wand than the Gimme Brow. The Gimme Brow is much smaller and micro sized, but the actual formula is similar to the Gimme Brow. I find that this is actually a little more volumizing than the Gimme Brow. And you guys know I love the Gimme Brow for that reason. It has little fibers and it creates like almost hair-like in your brows. So if you're someone that not only doesn't have a lot of dark brows, but you actually don't have a lot of hair, a thickening fiber brow gel is great because it gives you that volume and the illusion of actual hair. Both of these are going to do that, but I actually find that the NYX does it even more. The fibers are even more. You can even see it when you pull out the wand. You can see the difference between between the two. Now the shades are very different. I have brunette in this, and my label has completely worn off of this, but I think it's 3. I'm not sure, but this is definitely more of a cooler tone ashy shade, and this is a deeper kind of warm brown. But I really like this. If you're looking for a good drugstore brow fiber gel, give this one a try. I have it on my brows today. Again, I'm wearing the Gimme Brow on my right, and I'm wearing the NYX on my left. Okay, so let's talk about the eyeshadow, the blush, the bronzer, everything I had on. Now, I have to start this by saying that this is not quite a dupe. I think if you look at my makeup looks very similar. It doesn't look like I've used anything different on the left, so maybe we could say for that reason it's a dupe, but when you actually look and compare these two palettes, it can't really be a dupe. There's similarities, and I can say that the Milani was inspired by the Charlotte Tilbury, but there's a lot of differences. So the palette that I'm talking about is the Milani, what is this actually called? It's called the All-Inclusive Eye, Cheek, and Face palette. Okay, so I used this palette on my left side of my face. It comes with a bronzer, it comes with 2 blush shades here. It comes with 3 eyeshadows, and it comes with this highlight shade. So these are the shades that I used on my left eye. Now on my right eye, I use the Charlotte Tilbury Instant Look in a Palette Sunset Dreamscape. And you know, you could say that it's kind of similar. You know, you got your neutral, warm, kind of, you know, burgundy shades in here, but there's obviously a lot of key differences. The Milani doesn't have a shade like this. The bronzer in the Milani is much warmer than this, and it has a little bit of a shimmer. So there are definitely some differences in that aspect, but once you create a look, you can actually get it to look very similar. So I will tell you what I did on, and I kind of like the way that this eye came out even more so. I actually used the bronzer in my crease on both palettes. So I used the bronzer from the Milani on the left, and I used the bronzer from the Charlotte Tilbury on the right. Now I ended up using the blush shade in the Milani as my lid color, my inner corner lid color, where it's that shimmery pink. I used the blush instead. Whereas in the Charlotte Tilbury, I used the eyeshadow that comes in here. And I found that I prefer the look of the blush in the Milani more than this. I had a little bit harder of a time getting this to go on the lid. So yeah, but I will say I'm gonna mention it, not necessarily as a dupe, but as a great alternative to the Charlotte Tilbury. And at the end of the day, once your makeup is on, you know, they look pretty similar. But again, if you're looking at them next to each other, you can spot out some, you know, obvious key differences between the two. But if you're on a budget and you want something similar to this, great for traveling, and you want, you know, the bronzer and the shadow and blush all in one, this is a great option. All right, let's talk about one of the most popular lip shades, I think, of all time is Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk. I think we could probably agree that that's definitely in the top 5 lip colors that we hear about. So I wanted to find a great dupe alternative, and I came close. I came very close. I can't say that these products are exact dupes because of the color is a little different, but again, I have the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk lip liner and lipstick on my right side, and then on my left, I have my lips lined with the shade NYX Peekaboo Neutral, and then for the lipstick, I use the shade L'Oreal 173 Nude Intense Lipstick. Now, let me swatch these on my hand, and I will include some B-roll here so you guys can see up close the difference between the two. But when I swatch the Charlotte Tilbury lipstick, the Pillow Talk, it is definitely, the consistency is a little different. It's more of a matte shade, and the L'Oreal has a little more of a shine to it. It's a little more hydrating. I actually prefer the texture of the L'Oreal more so than the Charlotte Tilbury. And the L'Oreal has a little bit more of a peach in there, where the Charlotte Tilbury is a little more of that neutral rose shade. It's very subtly different. I'll kind of show you here too, but you can see, you know, they look very different more so in texture, because you can see that shine on the L'Oreal and the more matte on the Charlotte Tilbury. But do you see how that leans a little bit more peachy? The one that's shinier, that's the L'Oreal. So that's the difference. It's very, very close though. So I think if you are looking for a dupe to that, that's a great option. It's not gonna be like right on the money, but it's close. And then for lip liners, I have the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk lip liner and the NYX Peekaboo Neutral. And these weren't as close as I was hoping. The NYX is definitely more orangey, where the Charlotte Tilbury is, or I should say peachy, not orangey. So yeah, this is the NYX liner, and then the next one is the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk. So you can see that the Pillow Talk is slightly more pink. But again, once you have it on the lips, they're very similar. So I'm going to recommend these, not quite as exact dupes, but great alternatives if you want to save the money but still want to have that look of that like neutral nude pinky peach lip. These are great options. Again, guys, I always have my products listed and linked in the description box, but if you're new to my channel, I will have, you know, all of that in the description box as well, so you don't have to write all this down or remember it. And the last product that I have is the finishing powder, and I had read online that the Essence Pure Nude powder it's called Be My Highlight, was a great dupe for the Hourglass Luminous Light powder. And I have to say, these are very, very close. I set the ambient light powder on my right side and the Essence on my left. And when I put them on the skin, they looked very similar. You could see that glow and that shine on the skin. And the color tone looked very similar. When I swatched them on my hand, there's a little bit of a difference. I'm gonna do the Essence here on my middle finger, and I'm gonna do the Luminous Light on my index finger. Now, the Essence leans a little bit more like, I feel like you can see, let's see if I can get this to focus. Can we focus? There we go. Okay, now I need to look at it again okay. So again, the index finger, pointer finger is the Ambient Light by Hourglass, and the middle is the Essence powder. The Essence is slightly warm. It's got the most subtle, like champagne-y peach shift to it, where the Ambient Light looks a little bit more on the like ivory shade. So I would say the Essence is slightly darker. But if you use a light brush to apply it, like a big fluffy brush, when it's on the skin, it looks very similar. That will change depending on your skin tone. If you're deeper, you're probably gonna see that shift a little bit more in color, but very, very similar. Both beautiful powders. So if you love the Hourglass, or you've been dying to try it, but haven't wanted to splurge and spend the money, then give this one a try. It is absolutely beautiful. And that wraps it up, guys. What do you think? Do you see a difference between the right and the left side of my makeup? I really don't. I really don't see a difference. If anything, I like the left side eye makeup a little bit better. But as far as like everything else, it looks the same. So I will have all of these dupes listed and linked in the description box below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up so I can do more drugstore affordable beauty and dupe videos for you guys. I hope y'all have a fantastic day. I hope you have a beautiful day. Hope you have a beautiful, fantastic day, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.